Do you dream of fairies and princesses? Then you've come to the right place. Welcome to Disney Coast to Coast.
Hey folks, and welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast. I'm Jeff DePauli, and on today's show, I have Disney superfan Teo joining me for the first time. Hello, Teo, and welcome to the show.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Well, we just watched The Little Mermaid live on ABC, and I mean just watched it. It just ended. Of course, we are celebrating the 30th anniversary of The Little Mermaid. So let's not waste any time. Let's get into the conversation right now.
It's time to dive into today's Disney Dialogue.
All right, so before we jump into the live special, I want to know, where do you lie as far as fandom goes for The Little Mermaid, the classic animated film?
You know, it's always sort of been there for me. It's never been my absolute favorite.
What's your number one? Because you're the generation below me. So you're gosh, what did you grow up with? What was the one that you remember as a kid coming out in theaters?
Finding Nemo. That one.
Finding Nemo. Okay,
Yeah.
So you're
Monsters,
grew up with
Inc.
Pixar stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so those are the ones. Okay, see, Little Mermaid was that for me. I was very young, but I do remember The Little Mermaid in theaters. It is my favorite Disney animated film. I love it a ton. And this whole live concept for The Little Mermaid, this wasn't the first time Disney did it. Of course, if you live out here in Hollywood, as we do, they had the Little Mermaid live shows at the Hollywood Bowl. Had you heard about these or possibly even attended one of them?
I've heard of them. I've not attended them. As far as I know, they've happened a few times, right?
Yeah, Little Mermaid they did, I think, twice. They did Nightmare Before Christmas either 3 or 4 times. And it's very much this concept. The reason I bring this up is because, in the past, this whole live TV musical thing in the last, 6, 7 years or so, it's really become popular again. They've done the first big one that I feel really brought it back and rejuvenated it. Well, I guess it was really Sound of Music, but that wasn't the one for me. Grease. When Fox did Grease, I thought that one was phenomenal. And then there was Hairspray Live was really good. A Christmas Story, the musical, I enjoyed. A lot of people didn't, but I like that one. And NBC started them with Sound of Music, Peter Pan, and of course decades before that it was a thing. But the Hollywood Bowl started doing it live to the film, which is what this Little Mermaid special was more like. Instead of a full-blown musical production, they showed the classic animated film, and then whenever there was a musical number, they'd do a live performance of it on television with an all-star cast. We had Auli'i Cravalho as Ariel, who, of course, Disney fans know as the voice of Moana, Queen Latifah as Ursula, Graham Phillips as Prince Eric, Shaggy as Sebastian, and John Stamos as Chef Louis, and then Amber Riley was thrown in there, whom I was not expecting, to be honest. She sang at the beginning and the end. So in any case, we're just going to talk through this. I've got a bunch of notes and a bunch of thoughts. I want to preface this by saying I have a lot of thoughts and I'm pretty critical of it, but I totally recognize the amount of hard work that goes into a live show like this. I recognize this is not an easy thing to pull off, so I applaud everybody involved, and that's what I will say at the top of this, because I'm going to be critical, but let's just, actually, I had a good laugh before it even started, because they showed a little commercial promo for it, and they're featuring show-stopping numbers, or show-stopping performances is what they said, and I had to laugh because I'm quite literally, they are stopping the show, the movie, to do these performances, so I just thought the wording of show-stopping performances was kind of ironic to begin with, but it did start with Jodie Benson, whom we can all love and adore as the original voice of Ariel. It was nice to see her in there. She did a quick little introduction. And then the story started, or the movie started, really. And as they went into Fathoms Below, this was actually one of the coolest moments for me, the reveal of the staging. You want to describe that a bit?
So, yeah, it was a really smooth transition between the screen, the sort of fogginess storm on the screen, and the fog that was created in the audience. And then another really smooth transition was the waves of the ocean and the audiences with this they had like streamers sort of things.
Yeah, so there was a live audience for this, which, number one, let me just off the top say, I am not a fan of a live audience at these things. They're just encouraged to shout and scream the whole time. It's totally distracting. And I know what the producers are thinking. They're like, oh, it's going to give the performance energy and it'll feel more exciting. No, I far prefer these musicals on a studio backlot without an audience. If there is an audience, for very small moments where it only makes sense. But like you said, they did work them in a bit. They had those streamers at the beginning that created kind of the wave look. And they were projecting the film on a screen, and then that screen ripped apart and revealed, like, you know, a piece of the ship and them singing Fathoms Below. And I thought it was a really cool, high-energy way of starting the show. I was like, yes, this is promising. This is going to be great. But, you know, immediately we're kind of introduced to lyrics that most people probably don't know. I don't know if you caught it, how familiar you are with, like, the original music. But there were definitely new lyrics. Did you happen to notice that?
Yeah, I come from a household where that music has been sung for my whole life because, like you, my mom has grown up with The Little Mermaid and that same sort of idea. And my sister also comes from a musical theater background. So she's been in one or two productions of The Little Mermaid. So yes, I'm familiar with the lyrics.
Yeah, and we should mention as well, you're a musician yourself. You play what instruments?
I play trombone, bassoon, euphonium, bunch of low brass, some low winds. Yeah.
Is that what you're studying in college? Are you studying music?
Yes, I am.
Okay, cool. And you are, we should say, you're going to be part of the
Oh yeah, the Disney College program.
Disney College program. You're going to Orlando for that, right?
Yep.
Now, hopefully, I guess if you're there, you could become part of the college band, perhaps, maybe?
So the college band is actually it's part of the college program, but it's a separate entity. They don't
Okay.
have a college band in Florida, but they have the one here. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so there's only one here. There used to be one in Florida, but there's only one here now, which is interesting. It's kind of sad. I wish there was one there, but I'm going to try out at some point for the college band here.
Awesome. Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry, didn't mean to go on that
Yeah.
tangent, but congratulations. That starts
Thank
for you in a couple months, right?
January.
Awesome. Very exciting. So in any case, you have a musical background. As we mentioned, the lyrics for Fathoms Below. I'm okay with lyric changes. You know, first of all, a lot of these lyrics were based on the Broadway musical of The Little Mermaid because they made changes for that. But it definitely seemed like there was even more than just the Broadway stuff. So that can certainly be a little bit jarring for people who don't know it, but you know, it happens. I loved at the end of this moment, there was a classic Prince Eric standing on a rock or something with the wind blowing through his hair.
Yeah, it was the pose of the statue, right?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
it was just really funny. I was like, oh, look at that wind blow through his hair. It cracked me up. But in any case, I think, do you happen to, I don't know, do you think the music was live for this? Not the voices, but the actual instruments?
You know, there were some points where it sounded like it, but then at other points where it almost seemed impossible for them to have lined it up so perfectly with the movie recording.
Yeah, I do feel like, though, I feel like it may have all been recorded again in advance. That's my guess. I don't know. I tried to take a quick look at the credits, but the reason I feel this way is, number one, if there was a live audience, I'm pretty sure the camera would have cut to them at some point
Right.
to show that. But also, like, I know this film really well, and there were moments of music in the film that I was like, okay, this sounds slightly different. Also, they chopped up the film a lot. Like, they definitely took lines out for time and pacing and stuff, which I didn't love the fact that they did that, but they
Right.
definitely cut out a lot of little moments. So musically, if they had done that with the music that was already in the film, it would have been jarring. So I'm pretty sure they re-recorded everything we heard, even though it may have been recorded in advance. So that's kind of interesting. But in any case, as I said, Amber Riley shows up, who I feel like I must have heard this at one point, but I was surprised to see her. They didn't promote her as much as the others, who Amber Riley, I gotta say, is having quite the career. Were you a Glee fan at all? Did you watch that show?
You know, my family did. I had no part in that. No, I
Okay.
did not watch it.
The first season I was obsessed. That show quickly went downhill for me. I did make it through the entire series, but in any case, Amber Riley, I gotta be honest, of everybody on that show, she wasn't one that I thought was gonna have a super lasting career after Glee. I'm very happy for her. She's done a lot of great stuff from the West End in England to just recently she was the voice of Audrey 2, the man-eating plant in Little Shop of Horrors here in California. Now she's doing this, so like good for her. She's showing up in a lot of places doing a lot of cool things, and she sang Daughters of Triton, and so that was a nice little surprise. Then we cut to commercial, and do you remember what the first commercial of the night was? Because this made me laugh.
It's Disney Plus.
Disney Plus, of
Disney
course.
Plus.
I was like, yes.
But let me tell you, that was a great commercial.
For Disney Plus?
Yes, that was.
Oh yeah,
that was an amazing commercial. Like,
yeah, the ads for Disney Plus are really good. Like they're doing the marketing right for Disney Plus.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
It's now
and, like,
less
sliding the Simpsons in there more and more.
I'm not okay with that.
Whole thing is, that's
okay.
very
So
weird for me.
So you're okay. You're not a fan. I thought you being younger, you might be like, no, it's cool. I like it. I'm excited about it. I am so anti it. I can't even tell you.
Yeah, no, it doesn't seem right. It doesn't sit right with me at all.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. So in any case,
Yeah.
a great Disney Plus ad. They come back and, Part of Your World is a big musical number.
Of course.
It's really hard. These situations are really hard because the one we know and love is perfect, and it's really hard to ever live up to that. And I don't think she did. I actually don't think she was very good vocally overall. I mean, I love her in Moana. She's great, but I don't know.
Right.
In this live event, granted, she's hung by wires and flying around. That doesn't make it any easier.
That whole sequence, I feel like that definitely took out a lot of what the song was, for sure, because I felt like she was more focused on like flying through the audience than singing.
Yeah.
Because I definitely heard a few like hiccups there.
Yeah, no, let's just face it though. Like, it's really staging The Little Mermaid is a hard task to begin with because your main characters cannot walk for the most part.
They're all underwater. Yeah.
So, at least for the first half of the film. So it's like a challenge in general. I remember when they announced Little Mermaid's going to Broadway. I'm like, I love that because it's my favorite, but at the same time, how are you going to do this convincingly? And I don't think they've convincingly really figured it out yet. But I will say the people that were doing the flying did a very good job. There was a beautiful moment at the end of the song there's the famous shot in the film where she flies up to the top of that little cavern and reaches out through that hole. Yeah. And I'm not going to say they recreated that, but they kind of recreated a physical, the way that it was shot. We got that look. And I was like, good on you.
I was imagining that the water animation was going to be more like right on, like true to the original.
They did some things. They did a few times where they tried to put the live actors into the animated films, and those were a little bit weird. But yeah, I mean, I guess the flying was cool. Here's the thing. I come from a theater background with like a stage mechanics just mind. So when I see stuff like that, I just automatically get nervous. Even if it's cool, I'm like, oh gosh, this timing could be like, I'm always looking for the possible problem with it. And they did a pretty decent job. But even when they were like lowering her back to the rock, I was like, oh gosh, her fin's on the wrong side of the rock. That's just automatically where my head goes. But
was she spinning? I'm trying to remember.
I don't think
that.
she spun. Some other spun. She definitely flapped her fin and she got some good movement in the air. And of course they had bubbles all around the whole time. Yeah. And every shot of the audience, there were bubbles everywhere. That was pretty impressive. Like, must be a lot of soap. Yeah, a lot of soap.
Yeah.
Now it did feel like a theme park show. Let's face it.
For sure.
So this whole thing was very different from the other live musicals, which we knew going in. It's not like they falsely advertised it. We knew this going in. Whether or not it worked, I'm still not sure yet. But in any case, we'll continue talking about this and decide that afterward, I guess. But I do wonder when I was watching that number. I'm like, okay, Jodie Benson is there. She's backstage. I wonder what she thinks because, like I said, like the best part of that film, or one of the best parts, are the vocal performances from Jodie Benson, Pat Carroll, Sam Wright, like. Phenomenal performances. I kind of would have rathered gather the original cast on stage and do like a live reading to film or something like that. That would have, I think, excited me more. I am kind of curious what their demographic was. So if you had to guess, who do you think they were making this for? Because it felt very young to me.
Right.
But at the same time, I feel like they're trying to hit the nostalgia crowd as well. And I'm like, I don't know if you're going to hit the nostalgia crowd because you've changed the things we love. I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, I tuned in, so maybe they did it right. I don't know.
I felt like different parts of the show were geared towards different demographics, really.
And you're kind of right in the middle there because you're not that young, and you also don't have nostalgia for The Little Mermaid, at least not the way that I do.
Yeah.
So
I guess it's just also people interested in Disney in general.
Yeah. Now, would you have tuned into this, do you think, if I hadn't, reached out and said, hey, you want to do this episode? Do you think you would have tuned into it?
I most likely would have watched the beginning of it and then lost interest in it. Yeah. After Sisters of Triton.
Oh, wow. That early.
That number, I don't know what it was, but it felt really like stiff. Like there wasn't enough movement. Everyone was just sitting down because that's really they were in.
Well, they're mermaids. That's the problem.
Right.
So Daughters of Triton, or the song sung by mermaids, and Amber Riley, I think, was the only one standing. But yeah, that's the problem with The Little Mermaid innately. Yeah. So you know what? It works as an animated film. It works really, really well as an animated film. That's funny. Now, I'm not going to talk about every single commercial break, but I do think it's we shouldn't mention that. Break 1 was Disney Plus. Break 2 was Frozen 2.
Yeah.
Of course, Disney has some big things to promote right now, so it's a very good reason to have a special TV event on the wonderful world of Disney. But we get back, and now we get to my favorite song in the entire movie, and that is the Part of Your World reprise. I love this song so much. And let's face it, it's probably one of the most iconic visuals of The Little Mermaid is her singing that reprise, ending on the rock with a splash of water behind her, right? Like,
of course.
It's a tough thing to beat, that animated classic scene. And they tried to, once again, the vocals weren't the greatest. The swimming and the bubble projections were kind of cool because they did this interesting thing where we kind of saw inside Ariel's mind.
Yeah, it was her and Eric in the back floating around, Yeah.
So we saw, Ariel singing, and then in the background, kind of silhouetted, where it was, a body double of her and Eric swimming around. And they did a really cool thing. So they projected the bubbles on the scrim in front of the acrobats.
It's their bubble trail, right?
Yeah, their bubble trails were timed perfectly. And it's an impressive thing to do. So it was either timed really, really well, or there's actually technology these days. And I don't know which one they would have done, but they can put like trackers on the body of the acrobats, and then the computer can sense where they are. And they may have done it that way. They probably did because it was done beautifully.
Right.
So I liked that. And of course, as I said, there's that classic splash moment that they recreated in a sense where, she ends up on the rock, she swims out there, ends up on that rock, and then they turn the rock around so the screen's in the background and creates that splash. But it was, it just wasn't the moment from the film. And I know it's not the film. This is a different thing. I get it.
It was anticlimactic. That's one way to put it.
Yeah,
it is because even the music didn't have the effect that it does in the movie. I'm not sure how to explain it, but it didn't have the same
gravitas. It didn't.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. It is a moment in the film. It is such a moment in the film that is.
Oh, for sure.
Iconic. So I don't know, but
That's when
the
she
bubbles.
decides what she wants. Yeah.
Yeah, the bubbles. Well done. I'll give the bubbles credit on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now we get to Under the Sea, and this one is with Shaggy as Sebastian. Whom I gotta be honest, when I first heard he was cast, first of all, I haven't even heard of Shaggy for like a decade now. I like Shaggy. Do you even know who he is?
I had no idea who he was.
Okay, Shaggy, gosh, a long time ago, he had that song, It Wasn't Me. It was called It Wasn't Me. It was a big hit.
Was it like
And-
a one-hit wonder sort of thing?
I don't think so. I mean, he had a full album. It
Okay.
was around, it was back during the TRL days, and you probably don't even know what TRL
Okay.
is, but
Yeah.
Total Request Live on MTV. It was back then. And I was like, okay, that's good casting. Oh gosh, I thought he was bad. Bad.
He didn't seem to be singing. That was the thing.
Well, he kind of doesn't sing, is the thing.
Right.
And once again, Sam Wright gives such a great performance back in the day in the original. And I remember, but gosh, back when Little Mermaid came out, you know, it's 30 years later, and obviously it's still a huge part of the Walt Disney Company. They're still celebrating it in a major way. But this was something that was an immediate thing when The Little Mermaid came out. When it came out, it wasn't one of these things like a Hocus Pocus where it took, you know, a decade or so to really catch on with people. Little Mermaid
Right.
from the start was a hit. And so
Oh yeah.
immediately they had a lot of specials on Disney Channel. And one of them was they essentially gave Sam Wright, the voice of Sebastian, his own concert where he sang all of Sebastian's songs and stuff. They made a whole TV special out of it. And it was great. And it was kind of the same vibe and feel as what we got tonight, but like just done in a concert style and done really, really well. Shaggy came out in his like Michael Jackson Thriller jacket, and
But
was
it had like weird padding in the back too. Did you notice that?
yeah.
It's
I
sort
think
of
they were
like
trying
to make him look like a crab.
Yeah, so here's first of all, I will never get over humans dressed as fish. This is something that I just will never buy into, whether it's a parade at Disney or whatever, a stage show, whatever it is. Adults dressed as fish is the weirdest thing to me. It's so bizarre. So I totally pictured, and I could be wrong, I could be totally making this up, but I picture rehearsal with Shaggy or costume fittings and him being like, oh, I am not getting in one of those things. You are not making me to like literally look like a crab. So
Right,
they
like
came to
I would
that happy
imagine him
medium.
in one of those things like from Le Poisson. For sure.
Yes. So
And that's a whole nother monster. But
we'll get to that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Under the Sea number, I don't know. If that one felt especially theme parky. Now, something interesting they did in this is they gave Ariel lyrics to sing that normally Sebastian
Right.
sings.
It was one line at the beginning and then two counter melody lines in the back towards the end.
Sure, I'll take it. You're the music major. I'll believe you. So yeah, no. So that was a little bit weird, and I don't think that that's something that they do in the musical. I don't know the Broadway musical soundtrack or cast album nearly as well as I know the movie soundtrack,
Right.
but I don't recall that being a thing. So, you know, they obviously made little changes, and from what I understand, Alan Menken was involved and such, and that's good. Listen, it's not the same thing. They got to make changes for it to work in the circumstance. So
Yeah.
I'm fine with stuff like that. It's just always a bit jarring to me. Speaking of the ridiculous fish costumes, I guess Guillermo from Jimmy Kimmel Live was the blowfish.
Really?
Yes.
I saw the blowfish like just in the crowd. I didn't know it was him. I thought I saw a face and it wasn't his.
Yeah, it's Guillermo from Jimmy Kimmel Live, which
That's
I guess
really
was was a big thing. And my friend Rick West, who I will mention again in the future, he was texting me during this, and he was like, "That's Guillermo," and I was like, "Oh, I didn't catch it at all." And I was like, "Yep, it's definitely him." That's kind
I
of
did not
hilarious.
notice that.
Yeah, so
I saw
go
an
back
ad
and watch
for
that.
Jimmy Kimmel during the like one of the commercial breaks, and
Yeah,
they were mentioning it, but I didn't know that it had that kind of connection. That's really funny.
yeah.
It's
So then we go on to, now speaking of, oh my gosh, it's of a voice that Pat Carroll's voice as Ursula is top notch. Oh my goodness. So Queen Latifah had her work cut out for her with Poor Unfortunate Souls. I will say her entrance was awesome. Her costume was wonderful. One thing we haven't really talked about was there was a ton of puppetry work in
Yes, that was. They all looked like Jim Henson puppets.
Now that's interesting that you say that, because I was thinking to myself, are these Jim Henson puppets? And then I kind of, do you think they were?
Might as well be. They possibly could have been. Correct me if I'm wrong. Disney has some ownership of the Jim Henson Company.
Well, they own the Muppets. They don't have ownership of the Jim Henson Company, but they do work with the Jim Henson Company. They announced they're doing the series on Disney Plus and everything. But to me, I thought to myself, gosh, they should be working with the Jim Henson Company here on this. And they may have been, but I got to be honest, these puppets kind of look like off the store shelf puppets. They didn't look like they were specifically made for this production. I'm sure they were. They didn't look like Jim Henson quality in my mind.
Right.
And, they did have a puppet represent Flounder, and it didn't even look like Flounder. Like, frankly, yeah, if you've seen Voyage of the Little Mermaid at Disney's Hollywood Studios, that stage puppet show,
right? Those
puppets were better than what we saw tonight, in my opinion. Yeah. Had you ever seen that?
I have. I saw that. What year was that? 2011. But
okay.
I still have memories back there about it. But I'm glad you brought up the show at Disney World, because I'm going to bring up another show at Disney World, the Finding Nemo musical.
Oh yeah.
This was very reminiscent of that.
I would argue the Finding Nemo musical is far better
than this, what we saw tonight. Oh, for sure. Yeah. And the original music for that show people say there are flaws with it, but for a park musical, it's really good, and the performers are always great. But the suspension, the acrobatics, very similar to what we saw tonight.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you do when you're swimming, right? Like, that's how you recreate swimming on stages with acrobats and wires.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the Finding Nemo musical, and I think the music is fantastic. So anybody saying it's not good, I will fight. It's some of the Lopez's best work, in my opinion. I think it's fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
So, but in any case, we get back to Poor Unfortunate Souls, and as I mentioned, her costume is beautiful. I think Queen Latifah actually is great casting for this, and I think she did a very good job.
Her her mannerisms fit the part surprisingly well for me, in my opinion. And I haven't gone out of my way to listen to any of her music ever, but her voice is impressive, and her acting and her costumes were pretty great. And we haven't really talked about the set design a lot, but the set design,
we haven't at all. What did you think of the set?
I have that written under like every musical number. The first one, I didn't mention this, but the dancing right off the bat in the first act, or in the first Fathoms Below, it reminded me exactly of Newsies.
It reminded you of Newsies. I see what you mean. It was a high energy
tap dancing, spinning.
Yes.
That kind of stuff. It did remind me of Newsies, but the way that they used the set for like the dancing and the dance moves, it worked really well for that one. And most of the other sets were really great. Poor Unfortunate Souls was really good. The Le Poisson, that was a pretty good set. It was interesting, but it was really good.
Yeah, before I do want to mention, since you mentioned the dancers, applause to them. The background dancers, the chorus, did some fantastic work on this. Always overlooked by the stars, but really great work. And yeah, it's interesting you mentioned Newsies. I'm obsessed with Newsies, so any Newsies connection I'm happy with.
Yeah, I love Newsies. It's really good.
So, I will say, one thing I did not like what they did. So, there was really no dialogue that these stars playing the roles gave. It was everything was sung. So, if you're familiar with Poor Unfortunate Souls, Ursula speaks like a whole chunk right in the middle of the song. So, they decided not to have Queen Latifah do that. Instead, she sang those lines, and I was not crazy about this.
Yeah,
and once again, Yeah. I was trying to remember if the musical did this, and I don't think that the musical does. So this was like a new Queen Latifah thing, and I was like, ooh, not loving this. So yeah, that singing, I don't know. But once again, it would have been weird if they're like just throw Pat Carroll's voice in for her to lip sync to or something.
Yeah. Oh my god.
But she did mess up a line. Did you catch this? A very famous line of Ursula's is
I noticed a bunch of different mistakes, like especially with Shaggy, because he seemed confused the whole time. But that's a whole different story. But he like mumbled some lines. But
that's just his singing style.
Yeah, I think I did notice what you're talking about.
Yeah, so a very famous line of Ursula's is "Don't underestimate the importance of body language." And then, but instead she said, "Well, yes," she said, "Don't forget to underestimate the importance of body language," which is the complete opposite.
Oh, right.
Don't underestimate to don't forget to underestimate. I was like, oh, Queen Latifah. So that was a little sad, that moment. Because I was like, she's doing so well. Like, it was probably my favorite number thus far. And I was like, oh. But I will say, I felt like we were in Fantasmic at one point with her cauldron and pyro shooting out of it.
That was impressive that they did all of that on the stage. And at random parts, I saw like sparks flying behind her. Like, it seemed to be random because we didn't get the full shot at that point. But I did like what they were doing with the cauldron and all of that. Even in Le Poisson, they were like throwing a bunch of different stuff into the audience. I have no idea what that was, but
yeah,
so they were doing that a lot.
Yeah, so they had a pretty cool set piece for that cauldron and the pyro, and this was shot, I believe, right down the street from me at the Walt Disney Studios. So it was all inside of a soundstage and controlled that way. So I'm always excited when you shoot pyro indoors. Like, that excites me. So that's a good thing. I will say, once again, like the bubble stuff that we're talking about, they did a very cool job of the voice being taken from Ariel, where they had the scrim down and they projected like that hand grabbing Ariel's voice and throwing it into the seashell, and it was done very, very well. And the camera angle was perfect to capture that, and bravo to that. I loved stage trickery like that. Like, I thought that was very, very, very good. So that was cool. But they did add her voice, which was a song for Prince Eric. And this young actor, what was his name? Graham Phillips? I don't know who he is, but holy crap, he's cute and he is handsome and he's got a great voice. I actually really liked his singing voice. He does have a speech impediment, though.
Did you really?
Did you notice his S's come out like sh? His S comes out like an SH.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not notice that.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've heard interviews with him before and had never noticed that. But tonight I was like, every S he sang sounded like an SH. So I don't know what was going on. But in any case, I love his voice. I thought it was a good performance of that song. That song is a lot more difficult to sing in the musical. They dumbed it down a little bit for this. But regardless, it's a great song. I'm glad they added it in. They kind of needed to give Prince Eric something to do. So yeah, I loved that number overall.
That was when he sang that song, it was when he was on the balcony of his palace, right?
Within the context of the film, yes. Yeah.
Okay, and he had been playing the melody that Ariel sings on the lute or whatever. That was
it's like a little flute lute recorder instrument.
Yeah, and it disappointed me because if they wanted to keep the continuity going, they would have given that for him to hold. He didn't even have to play it, but he wasn't even holding anything that looked resemblant of it at all.
Oh, Teo's calling out the props department.
Yeah, and then after that, he throws it into the ocean. And
you're right.
So that could have been an easy thing to continue to bring on the continuity. I don't know why they didn't do that. But
yeah, I never thought of that, but it's a good note. If you were directing it, that would have been done.
For sure.
It's a good note. So we get her voice. We then get Le Poisson, which is John Stamos's big number. Oh my gosh. This was the low point, in my opinion.
So the advertisements for John Stamos, he looked so goofy. Like,
well, let's just admit it. This is not good casting for John Stamos.
Right.
The reason he's done this, I think, twice, if not once before. I'm pretty sure twice before at the Hollywood Bowl.
Okay.
He has played this role.
I thought there was a connection there.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's no secret John Stamos is a massive, massive Disney fan, and they love the fact that he's a big Disney fan and he's a big star. So I get it. You got a star who wants to work with you. You're going to accommodate him. And they have at the Hollywood Bowl. Now, I saw him at the Hollywood Bowl, but not in Little Mermaid. I saw him play Willy Wonka when they did a whole stage to screen Willy Wonka. It was horrible. And I know John Stamos has done Broadway before, so he has to be a good live performer. I'm not saying he's not. I've never seen him do anything great live, though. Like, between that Willy Wonka and tonight, oh gosh, I mean, he couldn't sing the song, number one. He was doing these notes that were just not good. And yeah, he was trying to play it off as kind of a joke, but I'm like, no, dude, like, you're messing up. Like, this is bad.
Like, I guess in a way it's supposed to be like sort of comedic relief, but
which it is in the movie. I get it.
Yeah, and at the same time, the movie's not like all that sad and dark, so it's not as much necessary, but it's still it's definitely an entertaining number. And tonight it was entertaining to say the least, but probably not in the good way.
It was Be Our Guest. That's what it was.
Did they not? I heard the melody of Be Our Guest later in the song.
Yeah, okay. But that was not purposeful, because I heard it too. It wasn't supposed to be Our
Really?
Guest. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think that was a tribute to Be Our Guest. It was just, I was like, oh wow, there are some similarities between these two songs.
Yeah.
I don't know. There was some stuff going on where and then just the way they presented the number felt very Be Our Guest. And I don't know, it was crazy. I gotta be honest, if I were to ever direct a stage adaptation of The Little Mermaid, I would cut this song. I've never really cared for it in the film. It's a fine song. It's a whatever song. It's just so unnecessary that
it doesn't help the flow.
It doesn't do
of the
anything.
story. Right.
Not at all. So to make a huge production number out of it, it's a small part of the film. To make a big number out of it because you have a star is just ridiculous, in my opinion. And I'm pretty sure it's a big number in the Broadway musical as well. I don't know. I don't get why.
Yeah, that opening shot of the kitchen and the giant pot
that he comes out of. Why does Chef Louis come out of a pot? Yeah.
Yeah. And then these like at least 20 ensemble members dressed as chefs.
Yeah.
Cook,
and giant crabs.
Giant crabs, at least 8 of them. I didn't count exactly. One came out of the ceiling.
Yeah.
Like the spiders, and It's Tough to Be a Bug. I love It's Tough to Be a Bug, and that's all that reminded me of.
That's fantastic.
But, yeah, and they're at the end of the number, these crabs had gotten all like 20 of these ensemble member chefs in that pot that John Stamos came out of. So
yeah,
it was
there were choices made that I don't know. But so you must have heard the big flub at the end of this number, yes? That John Stamos said? He kind of ad-libbed a line where what he meant to say was, I knew I should have been Prince Eric, but he said instead, I knew I should have been Prince Albert, and then corrected himself to Prince Eric.
Say Albert. And okay. Oh
yeah.
My gosh.
So that's that's a mistake. I will bring up my friend Rick West here, who is kind enough to screenshot and text me the definition of Prince Albert. If you are an adult 18 plus, you might want to do the same, because it's a piercing for a man.
I know exactly. Oh gosh.
Yeah. And that's what John Stamos said. on live television on ABC. And here's the thing: the people at Disney didn't catch it because it was not bleeped or anything for the West Coast. Which, when there are mistakes, they shoot it 5 p.m. here so that it airs 8 p.m. on the East Coast, and then they delay it here. So if there are ever major errors or curses slip or whatever, they'll always bleep them out for the West Coast. Nobody bleeped this out or cut away or anything.
Yeah.
So
they probably played
Disney,
it off as John Stamos just being John Stamos.
Listen, I don't think John Stamos purposefully used that term thinking of that. I don't think so.
And
but
being a Disney fan, why I don't understand how that would have happened.
It's live TV. You get nervous. Yeah.
Oh,
and maybe
sure.
who knows?
I'm saying that now. And I probably wouldn't be able to do that on live TV. No.
Here's the thing. Don't ad-lib John Stamos. Don't ad-lib with those things. But yeah, so that was an interesting moment. Then we get my favorite, not my favorite. My favorite is the reprise of Party World. But the most underrated song in The Little Mermaid is Kiss the Girl.
Mm-hmm.
I love this song. This song is not used enough in Disney everything. This is a song that they should use so much more often. I think it's a great song. Of course, Sebastian sings it, so that means it was Shaggy. Not a great performance on his part, but I will say, shot really well. I liked the way they shot this.
Yes, it reminded me a lot of the dark ride attraction at both Magic Kingdom and California Adventure.
Yeah.
Which, in my opinion, that's the best scene of the entire dark ride. That or the Under the
Ursula. Sea. No, well, Under the Sea is a great scene, but Ursula.
They did that. The only problem with that ride that people have that I've heard of is like storyline. Like there's no
You cannot follow the story at all.
Yeah.
If you don't know the movie of The Little Mermaid, you would walk out of that attraction being like, "What just happened?"
Right.
And that's the case with a lot of those dark rides.
Right.
But visually, I think it's a great attraction.
Oh, it is, and the colors and all of it's like really accurate to the screen. But I went off on a tangent. But yeah,
that's okay.
Kiss the Girl is very reminiscent of the ride scene, and I feel like that was good. And then the frog puppets, those were at the end. Those were a little corny.
Yeah, a lot of puppets used in this one as well. But what I liked is they had the boat that Eric and Ariel were in, kind of floating through the audience, and just the camera angles that they would shoot. They'd shoot kind of between Eric and Ariel with Sebastian in the background, and just some really cool choices, I thought, the way that they did that. And even Flotsam and Jetsam were puppets who knocked over the boat and stuff, and I thought that was a really well done number. I liked it. And then once again, they added another song from the Broadway musical called If Only. Now, in the Broadway musical, this song is it's a quartet between Ariel, Eric, Sebastian, and King Triton. In this version, they made it a duet between just Eric and Ariel. And I thought it was nice. Another nice number. It's a great song from the musical. I always love, because I feel, everybody knows the film, but I feel like very few people will know the musical. So when there's great songs in a Broadway musical, I'm always happy when they reintroduce it somewhere else.
Right.
Just so that like more people hear it.
Yeah, and they're like, "Ooh, what's that song? I've never heard that." Right. And even though I'm familiar enough with it to know She's in Love, I had not heard of that song.
Oh, okay.
It's the duet.
It's great.
Nor did I know that it was the quartet either. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, I think that, honestly, the Broadway musical, from what I saw of it, I did not see it on Broadway. I have seen a stage production of it, and I've seen video of the Broadway one. I don't love the musical, unfortunately, but I do love the new music that was written for it. There's a lot of good stuff in the musical. So I would highly suggest going out and getting the original Broadway cast album. It's very, very good. So after that, we got a Poor Unfortunate Souls reprise, which I knew it. The second we got to the scene of Vanessa looking into the mirror, I knew that they were going to superimpose Queen Latifah into that. And I was, they went on this whole Poor Unfortunate Souls reprise, which was fine. It was, she was probably the best part of it. So I guess bringing her back for more is totally cool and fine.
Yeah. The problem I had, I think they did it twice them pinning the pictures of the live action cast into the actual movie?
They did it a few times, but yeah.
Okay. So on Instagram, there's the option where if you want to pin like one of the stickers or like the text onto something, you like hold
Sure.
it down. And
Yeah.
that's what that reminded me of. Like they didn't do it very well. It seemed very last minute.
The high-tech Disney used an Instagram app to create their Little Mermaid live.
That's what it looked like, in my opinion. But
Now, I know what you're saying. What they did was they took a freeze frame from the film and kind of, cleared out an area and put the video in it. I get it. It didn't look great, but
right.
yeah, I will say this. I felt like this did the animated film overall, just did the animated film a little bit of disservice. The Little Mermaid is phenomenal, and I will say, this is the month to celebrate the 30th anniversary of The Little Mermaid. Go back and watch the original film, even if you watched this, because, like I said, there were little pieces cut, and just the musical performances in the films are stellar. So go back and watch the film and celebrate that film that came out 30 years ago. I think that's important.
Mm-hmm.
This was a nice celebration of the film, but it's not the film that we love, is what I would say about that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really the final number of the movie. Then we got a big finale number at the end. I will say Ariel's dress on point at that point. Oh my gosh, she looked amazing. And they brought back Amber Riley to sing Under the Sea during this big finale during the bows. And that was The Little Mermaid Live on ABC, The Wonderful World of Disney. You know what? This is the first time I think ABC got into this game. Wonderful World of Disney has done musicals quite a bit. We've done a episode of Disney Coast to Coast about the Cinderella that they did with Whitney Houston. They did a production of Annie in '99. And so, but this was the first live one that they did. And a lot of the other networks were doing it. Fox and NBC have been doing it for years now. So I'm happy to see them get in this game. But I'm curious, what do you think? Should Disney do another one of these live musicals?
It really depends which one. Like
Newsies?
Newsies would be really cool. It's like maybe like an updated cast, sort of like pop stars of today. Like I'm not a fan of when they bring pop stars into this, but
I was going to say, here's the thing with these live musicals. I always marvel. I'm a huge theater fan. I love Broadway. And whenever I watch these, I'm always like, wow, Broadway people who do 8 shows a week, run laps around these stars who are doing it for one night only. And it's just kind of unjust, this industry, because there are people doing a show 8 times a week with so much more talent than a lot of these stars. And I'm not taking anything away from these celebrities. And I get it. Live TV is difficult. It's stressful. But there are people who do live performances almost every day of the week. Phenomenally better. So that's why I get angry and I get it, they need people to tune in, but I don't think you need to cast every role with a celebrity or a name. Right. Put Queen Latifah and then surround her with Broadway talent, is always my argument. But they always, this is event television, and for it to be an event, they need as many names as possible. I will say though, out of all of these, this one felt like the least event. Like the marketing for it wasn't great, in my opinion. I remember the buzz leading up to Grease, the buzz leading up to Rent, the buzz leading up to Hairspray was really big. And even a lot of people in the Disney fan community were like, oh, is that on tonight? They're talking about Little Mermaid. So I'm like, I don't know, there's something went wrong as far as the marketing's concerned. The numbers haven't come out yet as far as ratings, but I'll be kind of curious to see what it is. And this one was like a 2-hour TV special as opposed to those other ones are 3 hours. This one, a lot of it, I'd say maybe a little less than half of it was just the movie on screen. Right. So it was definitely different than the rest. If ABC were to do it again, I'd love to see them do a full-fledged musical. I'd love to see them do it on a studio backlot. I don't need a live audience. I love that they jumped in this wheelhouse. I love that they tried something different. I didn't love this format of go between performance and screen. And I feel the same way about the Hollywood Bowl performances. I honestly don't go them that often because you're taking literally the best moments from the film, the songs, and stopping it to put in a lesser version. So
Right.
that doesn't make much sense to me.
So I feel like what these are attempting to be are broadcasted Broadway musicals, essentially, for people that want the Broadway experience but aren't able to get it. But I feel like that's not what this is. Like it's what it tries to be, but it's not.
That's, to me, this felt more like a concert than anything. Some of the
Right.
other ones I would agree with you, the live musicals. I would have preferred, number one, they just do the full-fledged Broadway Little Mermaid musical. I would have preferred that,
Mhm.
which of course would have cost more money, so I get it. Part of this was a cost-saving thing. And, I also would have been cool with them, like, deciding to shoot Frozen on Broadway, which is on Broadway right now,
Right.
and air an abridged version of that on ABC or something. That would have been more interesting to me. I didn't listen. I had a fun time watching this, but it had a lot of
Yeah.
problems, in
Oh,
my
for sure.
opinion.
And I'm sure if they do another one, there'll be a lot of problems that they fix. Like your example of another one that they could do that would definitely be an improvement of an improved version of this one you said Newsies, and
They wouldn't do it. Not enough people care. It's not a big enough audience. They don't have toys to sell with it. It would probably be Beauty and the Beast.
yeah,
Or
I
Frozen.
was thinking Lion King.
That would be interesting, but I would say they better get better puppet work done if
Oh,
they're going to
for
do
sure.
Lion King.
And if they want to do Lion King, I would just recommend, like what you said, recording the Broadway version of Lion King, because that was one of
Yeah.
the first musicals I saw, and it was very impressive. I was young, but I remember it being impressive. So
That was the first musical I ever saw on Broadway, like in New York City. I'd seen a bunch in Boston before then, but that was the first one I saw on Broadway. And like within the first few seconds, I was in tears. I was like,
Yeah.
this is amazing.
yeah,
And yeah, I would love for them to shoot that and put it on television. That'd be great. But they didn't. They did The Little Mermaid. It's the 30th anniversary. What this does is just solidify the fact that the animated film is brilliant,
hmm
and you kind of can't top it.
right,
The interesting thing about Little Mermaid is it's never left the parks.
Right.
Those four films that I grew up with, Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and Lion King, they never left the parks. Ever since I was a kid, they were just consistently there, and it's pretty remarkable to think that now 30 years later, these characters, because I feel like all of them really kind of come and go, but not those four films. Those Renaissance films really are solid, and every parade, every projection show, I feel like there's something Little Mermaid in it.
Oh yeah, and Little Mermaid, Fantasmic. That's an insanely huge part of it. Ursula is one of the main villains in Fantasmic, and I didn't remember from the original Little Mermaid. I didn't remember how many lines were taken right from Ursula's part from that and put into her part in Fantasmic. Like that's a lot. And
they pulled quite a bit.
I'm a diehard Fantasmic fan.
Ooh, how about Fantasmic 2.0? Okay, Teo, you need to listen to my episode about
I guess
Fantasmic 2.0.
Yeah.
Because, oh gosh, do I have thoughts on that.
Mhm.
I'm livid.
So I've seen our Fantasmic here, Disney World's Fantasmic, and I went to Tokyo Disneyland just to see Fantasmic. And
Oh, wow, how was that one?
oh my gosh.
Very different. I've seen video.
In my opinion,
Yeah.
it's the best Fantasmic. Best version.
Really?
Yeah,
Interesting.
definitely. The music.
It felt different to me though. Like to me, it didn't feel like Fantasmic. What I saw of it, I was like, I don't know. I feel like it should have had a different name. It didn't feel like Fantasmic.
Oh yeah, there were a bunch of different working titles for it, but it's very much Fantasmic in the way of the music, in the way that Fantasmic culminates all of the music together in one. I can talk about Fantasmic for hours because I love it so much. But
Oh, you're talking to the right guy. I am obsessed with Fantasmic as well. Unfortunately, not so much the new one, but in any case, I digress here. Is there anything else you want to add about this Little Mermaid live before we get some trivia?
Well, just like to wrap it up, I feel like it was interesting. It was a good experimental sort of run for this whole musical live broadcasting system for Disney. I'm sure we'll see more in the future, for sure.
I'm curious if we will. I'm really curious if we will.
Yeah.
I'm curious what the ratings will be and if we'll see it again. Now, if you remember, this actually was the second go at this because they were supposed to do it a year ago and it got canceled. So
I saw something about that because I read something that it was announced back in 2017,
yeah,
and I thought to myself that was a really long time ago if it was just like broadcasting now, and so that makes sense that it was supposed to do it last year.
Yeah, they were supposed to do it at the end of 2018, I believe, and then it went away, and then all of a sudden, like, it's back. You're like, oh, all right, I guess this is happening. So, in any case, folks, I think that means it's trivia time! All right, Teo, do you want to hit me with a trivia question first, or shall I hit you?
How about you hit me first?
Okay, so this is actually not the first time that Queen Latifah played Ursula for the Walt Disney Company. Do you know why and when she played Ursula for the Walt Disney Company?
Well, I'm almost 100% sure it's not somewhere in the parks.
That is correct.
If I said the musicals, I feel like that would be too obvious. Like if it was in the musical at some point on Broadway.
Nope, she never did it on stage on Broadway.
No, I'm not sure about that one. That's
Okay. Well, back in 2011 and before that, they had a series of Disney Dream portraits by photographer Annie Leibovitz, and they took a lot of celebrities and placed them in iconic Disney roles. And it was a whole ad campaign for the Disney parks, and they created this Ursula one with Queen Latifah, and the slogan was, "Where memories take hold and never let go." And it was an ad for the Disney parks. And there were a bunch of them out there, but the Queen Latifah Ursula one was one of the big ones. And that was the first time that she played Ursula for Disney.
wow. I definitely recognize the artist's name.
Yeah. I would be surprised if you Google this, you'll find it real quickly. I'd be
for
surprised
sure.
if you don't recognize the photo because it was a really big campaign back in 2011 and 2010.
And do the
2009.
portrayals look similar at all?
Oh yeah, it was cool. I mean, a lot of it's done through photo tricks and stuff.
Right,
So, but she looks great as Ursula.
Yeah.
Like that's one thing I'll give her is just she looks great as Ursula.
Yeah, she definitely
So,
fits the part.
Yeah, so I love that.
Yeah.
Cool. So, what's your trivia question for me?
All right. Pretty sure you know this one. This being a diehard fan of The Little Mermaid, I would assume you would know it. But what is the name of the shark who almost eats flounder? The one that...
Oh, I don't know. Do they refer to him by name?
never in the movie.
Oh, then how would I know this?
I don't know.
I wanted to guess Bruce, but that's because of Finding Nemo.
Right.
I don't know. What is that shark's name?
It's Glut. Glut.
Okay, where did you find this information? If they don't mention it in the film, how is that confirmed info?
During the creation of the movie, it was used then, and I got this information from Oh My Disney. But
no kidding.
Yeah.
So when they were developing the story, they called him Glut, and then eventually he just became a minor part that he never got a name. That's
Right.
interesting.
Yeah.
I did not know that. Oh my, Disney. See what I did there?
Yeah, I did.
Cool. Anyway, Teo, thank you so much for coming on the show. Why don't you let folks know where they can find you? If you want to see him Instagram story every meal he eats, you can do that. But also, you recently started a Disney Instagram as well, right?
Yes. You can follow me at Tiki Room Teo. Teo spelled Theo. It looks like Theo.
Fantastic. Well, folks, don't forget that the 2020 Disney Coast to Coast calendar is now available for purchase over at DisneyCoastToCoast.com. You can choose between a wall calendar to hang and display or a desk calendar, which comes in a case for easy display on your desktop. Either way, you'll be getting a bit of Disney magic to enjoy throughout the entire year, and one of the months even features The Little Mermaid. In addition, celebrate the openings of Disney theme parks as each one's anniversary is notated on the calendar. Head over to DisneyCoastToCoast.com and order yours now. It's never too early to start planning for the new year. Thanks a bunch, Teo. I really appreciate you coming on, and folks, other than that, have a magical day. Bye!
Thanks for listening to Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePauli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com.